Uh, Man, what do I want to talk about? And I'm sorry I'm so late today, but I told you I was going to, one way or the other, start being more active with these lives and having real conversations. And, you know, I just had a good conversation, so I guess I can follow that up with what we're doing here. But I think one of the main things is the people's, lack of understanding with the breed and believing in the marketing more than you believe in the breeding, and that's a big thing. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, we're all trying to get whatever we got going, and we believe in the process, but we're going in different directions. You know what I mean? And what direction is most people going in is the question. I don't think they can even. I don't even think that they can answer you that because even with the say per se extreme breeders, right? The extreme breeders have changed directions so many times. Like if you look at their dogs now compared to the way that they looked 5 years ago, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, it's a totally different dog. And the more we have totally different dogs on every aspect, we're going to continue to see ourselves fall apart because the only thing that truly makes a breed good is consistency. You know what I mean? Consistency is everything. And y'all forgive me because I'm tired as hell, man. But I just did like 2.5 hours of cardio. But if we can't get consistency in the breed, then what exactly are we doing? And then we have all we've lost the science because back when we started breeding these dogs, I don't care what camp you were going to, whether it was one of the elite edge families, whether it was blue line, gray line, Gotti line, Remy line, no matter what the line was, we always had a goal. And the way things are going now, you just don't have a goal. It's like whatever trend is hot, and this is why you can't plan 2 to 3 breedings ahead. A conversation that I was just having is sort of exemplify what we're talking about with this whole thing is so many people now talking about cloning. Look, man, I'm not taking shots at anybody, but as a breeder, if you are cloning, really you're cloning more so just to do something, just to say, look what I did. We cloned, start some hype, do a little bit of marketing or whatever the case may be, because nobody is cloning. If you're a breeder, it's like a taboo thing. It's against the rules. And I'm being real with y'all. If I had the opportunity to clone, say for instance, I had the opportunity to clone Denzel, right? Why would I want to clone Denzel? You know what I mean? Why would I want to clone Hallie? Why would I want to clone any dog? Because it takes away from y'all. Excuse me as I look down, but it takes away from the science of what I do. To see breeders talking about their cloning now, and I don't know, it might be on one of those weird things where I'm not seeing y'all messages. That's why I'm trying to actually join the live on my other phone. But it's strange, man, because everybody's looking for a new way to try to be relevant. And once again, hello to those who are there. If y'all trying to put up comments or whatever, not allowing me to get into the comments. But it's sad. I don't know, man. If it pops up, it pops up. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna keep on talking. I won't be here forever. But it's sad with the whole cloning thing, just because of the fact of what I mean. We're here to breed. Like I want to take the dogs and I want to take the genetics that I have and the dogs that I have, genetics from other dogs, and make the best possible thing. It's like I only analogy I can think of is a music producer. Whatever your favorite song is, you don't want that artist to keep on making that exact same song over and over again. You want to see what they're going to do with their skill level to make another hit. And that's the way I look at it. I look at 3 or 4 breedings that I have planned over the next year, and I'm expecting hits. I'm expecting my next Mandela, my next Denzel, my next Rome, my next Biggie. I would never want to put myself in a position to where I'm gonna have a test tube puppy. It's just like it takes all the relevance out of the game, man. And I can't. It baffles me that people are really trying to do this. and people really think that this is what it is. You know what I mean? It's sort of pathetic in a lot of ways, you know. And yeah, I tuned in on the other one, so maybe I'll see some kind of messages on there, but I'm not seeing any messages. But you know, with all that being said, man, it's just one of those things that we have to get to a point. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, Dennis? We have to get to a point where we're doing better and we're getting back to the science of what it is that we do. You know, so many people are worried about the wrong things in this breed to where you losing the whole science. Like, I'll post a dog named Boom Boom when I did the bistro breeding. You know, I looked at the pedigrees, and I was aiming for Boom Boom out of this. You know, he was a champagne, very muscular male, big head. And if you see Mandela and Boom Boom, you know, I was pretty successful. Mandela's a little bit bullier than Boom Boom was, but you know, it was pulling on genetics and the science of it. And you know, one of my trolls went on Marco Suarez's pages, but you know, Marco comes up a lot. But one thing I can say, because you know, we go back and we think a lot alike, is the whole art form for us is understanding pedigrees and pulling the best version of a dog out of what we're doing. Most of these breeders today can't do that. This is why y'all just run the big names. Like, it's ridiculous, the idea to see some of y'all where y'all talking about, oh, I spent $50,000 on a stud. And I'm not hating. I'm just being real. Y'all spent $50,000. Some of y'all did. I don't know. Probably nobody on this video. But even if you spent $25,000 on a stud, you heard these people spend outrageous prices on studs, yet and still they don't have anything to show for it because they're going for the marketing aspect. They're not going for the understanding of how to make a better dog. I could take a bunch of no-name dogs that y'all don't know anything about, just look at the pedigree, read the pedigree, and I can make you a superstar. I've been doing it for years, and it's not to pat myself on the back. It's just I've been here so long, I know what to expect when you mix certain bloods. You know what I mean? And I'll show y'all again this year coming up. But it's not an accident when you see certain breeders continue to success. When you see Oscar Gomez have a certain level of success to where he continues to make, you know, hit after hit after hit after hit, and you see his breedings, and it's like boom, he's making some fire. When you see somebody who doesn't breed very much at all, like a Carlton Pratt, yeah, excuse me. Like I say, I was out doing cardio forever today. I'm tired as hell. But when you look at somebody like a Carlton Pratt, right? Pratt's only does breedings every 2 to 3 years, but generally, when he does a breeding, he makes good dogs. You know, he makes something that he can get his famous camera out. He's gonna click some pictures, and they're gonna be beautiful dogs. It's not that he's a magician. He understands his blood. Even when he does outcrosses, he understands his blood and the expectations that come from those outcrosses, whether I agree with him or not. You know what I mean? Let me answer this message. You know, but the thing of it is that so many of the younger breeders are missing this part, are missing this part of the action. You know what I mean? Okay, Tricon Bullies. Look, I think it's an excellent idea. I did a video on that earlier. I have two very old studs, been frozen for over 20 years. I just sold one actually, off of, well, I won't say which dog it was, but I still have two older dogs, and I think that that's the way that you need to go, because it's the line breeding effect. Even the dogs who, so we know some people have mixed some shit into some of these dogs, so that's another reason why you would need the old blood, is to counter the mixing. You want to bring that pit bull on steroids back into it. But what's going on? Why? But another thing is, when you talk about the dogs, even like a dog like Dax that has issues, that the issues need to be cleaned up. And of course, if you got Dax in there now, it's probably back fourth or fifth generation at the very earliest. You know what I mean? But King City Exotics, I'm sorry about that. You know what I'm saying? Go, yeah. Please hit the like button. But you know what I'm saying, and I appreciate that. But the thing of it is even with a dog like Dax or any of the dogs that y'all would consider to be extreme blood, you need the original. Those are the. It's a reason why you say foundation. So put it this way: over the last 20 years, think about the lines. You know what I mean? The lines, the lines, the lines. Let me see. Uh, no, I don't. You know what? Tricon bullies. I don't think it will end because you have two different mindsets. I think what has to happen is everybody has to agree to disagree. You go off and do your thing, I go off and do my thing. You know what I mean? If I'm, and the people know me, I'm more of a pit bull on steroids, and that doesn't mean my dogs are small. You know, you take a dog like Mandela, 100-pound pocket, you know, very big, but it's certain things that I want. I don't want a bulldog. I want a pit bull on steroids. So I think, you know, you can't be in between, because those who want extreme, they're always going to look at the type of dogs that I like, and possibly the type of dogs that Marco like, and they're going to be like, well, you know, those dogs are too terrier. You know what I'm saying? Whereas then we say the other thing: your dogs are too much of a bulldog. You know what I mean? But yeah, Brian Payne. That's what I was getting at. Is that if you're going for the pit bull on steroids, or you're going for even more functional extreme dog, you need the old blood, because the sad part is you know, some of the straws are around now. The sad part of the thing is that you know what I mean. Everything's too tight now. You know what I mean? Everything's too congested now. Everybody's line bred or mixing shit, and all these dogs are coming out deformed, losing things. Yeah, you can add more size, but they're losing their essence. Some of these dogs walk around, I don't know if y'all noticed, but they're like zombies now. A lot of these dogs don't have that eye of the tiger, so to speak. They're not moving well. They're not doing a lot of things that they used to do. You're just losing the whole entire breed. You know what I mean? You know, and that goes back to when you say why not challenge. It goes back to the same thing. You know what I mean? Uh, it goes back to the same thing. It's hard to have a challenge when we're not playing by the same rules. You know, the new school, more massive dogs, they're not playing to have a healthier conformation dog. They're playing to have a big dog. You know, it's the reason why we saw the ABKC let a dog win this year that damn near died at the show, is that health was not a concern. See, for me, like, if I'm judging and I see a dog in the ring that's laboring and having breathing issues, you know what I mean? I disqualify that dog. We have registries now that not only will let those dogs in the ring and stay in the ring, they'll award them championships. It's two totally different things. You know what I mean? Functional, you know, functional is everything, Mr. Allen. Functional is everything to us. You know what I mean? But a lot of people don't want to go that route, and that's why we can't compare. That's why it's sort of like we can't even agree, because it's two totally different things. Like, even Mandela, 100-pound dog, roll over on his stomach and sunbathe out in 95-degree weather. You know, I've had some dogs that are similar to his size or bigger, and they didn't have a problem with the sun. They can go out, they can run around, they can move around. They'll, you know, they'll still, believe it or not, get me in trouble, because because they still have a little bit of fire and they want to get at each other. And what's going on, Boo Man? And that's what a real American bully breeder wants. That's what the essence of it was. Is the dog has to be functional, has to have some athleticism, has to have the ability to move and breathe, and you know, okay. And I keep on bringing up breathing, but think about this when we start talking about the extreme dogs. I gave you the example of the dog at Nationals that won last year. What was his name? Champ. He was having a lot of issues breathing in the ring, and they allowed him to become Nationals champion. Back in my day, that's a disqualification. A dog cannot have breathing issues. It's just that simple. If the dog has issues breathing, if the dog has issues where it's acting skittish, tail between the legs, pissing and shitting in the ring, those are supposed to be disqualifications. Currently, they are allowing these dogs to win. You know, and it's really blurring the lines. You know, the show ring is blurred, and even the breeding process is blurred, because we were more so, and I'm still that way, where I want to breed, and my breeding's okay. So, for instance, I have a two times Mandela female, right? On one side of her pedigree, uh, it's Mandela to a heavy Excalibur female. Then on the other side is Odell. And Odell has a lot of edge blood in him. In about 5, 6 generations, he actually has some Dax blood in him. So she's doubled down like that. A lot of blood. Dax way far in the back of her pedigree. Like I think for her it's the seventh generation, which would be like 1% or some shit. But then I want to take her and I'm going to actually breed her to another sizable dog. More than likely, it'll end up being Marco's boy Mega Bones. You know what I mean? And I understand that on his far end, you know what I mean? Uh, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, Press is still in the game. Yeah, Press is still in the game, but he's just more of a hobby breeder. He doesn't breed to sell anything. He's only gonna do a breeding every couple years and keep his stuff going. But what's going on, athletic made bullies? But going to the original question is that okay? I have a dog like Chubb in the yard, right? Now Chubb is Armani's son. Chubb is very, very muscular, huge muscular, basically 100-pound pocket, but he has the stuff from Eddie from Blue Line, which is actually some XL blood. Now, knowing that I would be taking a double Mandela dog, which would that would mean 2 times 100-pound pocket, and I'm going to take this to another massive dog like Mega Bones. The bloods aren't too tight. You keep the same look, you know what I'm saying, which is basically doubling them down on that Paco type of head shape. The overall thickness, conformation is steady on all sides. You got the Excalibur on one part. You've got some other edge dogs, including more Excalibur on the other side. You're bringing all of this shit together, and now you got a nice cluster of, you know, really diverse and good bloods out of these puppies. But eventually, I would love to take a female from that and run it to my Armani son, which is, also very strong bred from Eddie stuff, which is definitely an outcross. But I'm still bringing in size genes. I'm still bringing in athleticism. I'm still bringing in the characteristics. And by the time I get to that status, I've got a whole litter of puppies who are not closely line bred, have all of the phenotype and genetic traits that I want: athleticism, ability to take heat, ability to take cold, good conformation, overall size, pit bull on steroid type of head structure, and temperament. These are the things. This is the way you breed. You plan out your breedings, not saying, "Oh, I want size. Let me get a Dax dog. Oh, he's the next hot dog. Let me get this dog." You know what I mean? We have to get to a point that we're really planning out a breeding. No matter what the breeding is, we have to plan this stuff out. And when you're planning a breeding out, you're planning for every aspect. Everybody always talks about, well, what do you use, genotype or phenotype? You use both. And when you're using genotype, you're not when a lot of people get this confused, and it drives me nuts. When you talk about genotype, you're not just looking at a pedigree. You have to understand that pedigree. So if I'm looking at a pedigree that has Dax in it, I'm going to have to understand that there's a higher probability for the heart issues. It's a higher probability for all the issues that come with him. I'm also going to understand that there's a higher probability for pretty good muscle mass, because Dax do pretty good muscle mass, and the dogs with his blood do. Now I have to put both of those on paper. So the female that I'm taking this to, I have to have an understanding that I cannot double down on anything that is bad in that pedigree. What's going on, CC? I can't. Any of the heart issues, any of the lung issues. If I am going to allow that in my pedigree, I am trying to push that as far back as I can. Those things cannot be doubled down. So now I'm using the genotype to maneuver according to the phenotype in the dogs. And this is how I pinpoint by percentages what dogs I want to go to. So if I want pockets, I'm not going to pick a genotype that has 75% standards and XLs. That means I have roughly a 25% chance to come up with any pockets. I want to pick a genotype that's going to give me a higher chance of pockets. Now, it's something interesting, and this is the flip side to it. When you go into the pocket, remember the pocket is a dwarf. So, in this case, when you start looking at yeah, absolutely, I would work with a Lucky Luciano granddaughter. You got to think, if it's a Lucky Luciano granddaughter, this is how you do your percentages. Okay, if it was a Lucky daughter, that would be, that would be 25%. If it's a granddaughter, then that's 12.5% of the Dax blood. That means the puppies out of that breeding would only be 6.25%. That's a very low percentage of me getting anything that I don't want as far as the issues that he had, that I don't like. And this is the way I breed. Now, can I accentuate the positives, which with Dax blood would be size? A lot of muscle. I give Dax his credit, and a lot of the Dax dogs, they could put those shoulders on the dogs. They could put, yes, I could double down on that, and I would look at my other side, like an Armani, for instance. He would be a great dog to take to that because, for one, he keeps it clean. He keeps it very, very healthy, high drive. But Armani had a nice wide front, and you can even see it on Chubb, where they throw those shoulders. Now that Blue Line has that too, but that massive chest plate and those shoulders, which accentuates the stuff that Dax has. That's what I'm saying. When you do these breedings, you literally have to make a chart, head chart. What are my percentages? What does the grandparents look like? The great grandparents? Am I getting a high percentage of nice heads in this breeding as I bring both pedigrees together? The higher the percentage, the better probability that I'm going to get what I'm looking for. The same thing goes with the higher the percentage of the bad things, it's a probability I'm going to get that, and you have to decide if you want to go into that. It's really all analytics and mathematics when you look at it. It doesn't make it 100%, but it makes you have the ability to do it. This is why anybody who's followed me, you can see me predict the breedings. It's not that I'm the dog Nostradamus or some shit. I'm using analytics. I'm looking at the pedigree. Okay, both grandparents have nice heads. Both grandparents have nice top lines. You know what I mean? Both grandparents have all of these good features, but one grandparent has bad feet. You know what I mean? They're kicked out. So, okay, I got this one grandparent that has bad feet. That's 25% on one side. That, we got some bad feet over here. I need to have no bad feet over here so I can take that 25% down to at least a 12.5 on an overall, and it only gives me that small percentage of a chance that we're going to have feet. I can't look through that pedigree and say, oh, that great grandma has them too, because now that adds up the percentage and comes up higher. So this is the way you do your breedings, and it's a process. People just usually sit two damn dogs together. They look nice together. What you think? That blood usually, no, you have to break this shit down. You know what I mean? Yes, I have breedings in the works. The one I just said, mega bones, probably mega bones to a double Mandela girl, which, like I said, I think that'll give me a strong chance of 100-pound pockets, very tight heads, a lot of muscle, great conformation. As Mega Bones has that, and she's a conformation freak. Her mom was 98 pounds. Her father is 92 pounds. His head is 25 inches. The mother actually had a 24-inch head. She's no longer with us, but so the genetic wise, it comes together. Mega Bones is just a beast. Uh, Anytime you go anything in my yard, you're doubling down on Paco, even though it's the smaller percentages, but bringing it back to the forefront. So that's a breeding that I know is going to bang like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Then I have another girl that I'm gonna run the Chubb, and she has some more like off-brand. It would be considered like a heavy outcross, but it's just a ton of muscle on the phenotype. And as I search through the pedigrees, there's no real strong genetic flaws, and it's very loose because the dogs really aren't related in any kind of way. So it could be a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? My puppies usually like 3,500 to 5,500, just depending on the breeding. I don't really go much higher than that. I won't be going much higher than that. And at this point, I'm only going to be breeding, like I say, twice a year, more so for us and our program, and to infuse some good dogs into there. The same thing with the registry that I'm doing. Everything has to be DNA tested, and everything needs to be genetically tested and passed by the veterinarian. That includes hearts, the whole cardiovascular system, and now we're basically going to be doing x-rays on hips and elbows for every dog in the yard too. Yeah, so Mega, we pretty much go the whole nine. You know what I mean? Hips, elbows, everything. I want to start a trend that everybody starts to do this with their dogs, because eventually you want to get to the point to where you can go ahead and do appraisals on dogs. The South African Boerboel community does great appraisals, but we can't do appraisals if we don't know the scores on the hips and the elbows. We don't know if the dog is clean of any cardiovascular issues. then it's just the judge looking at the dog. I need to know what's going on with the dog inside. And also, I need a DNA test on this because it's always been my thought process that if we can force this community to start piling up DNA tested litters after DNA tested litters, in the next 10 to 15 years, we'll have 4, 5, 6 generations, 10 to 20 years, 6 generations of dogs that are all DNA tested so we know where they come from. And all of the dogs are health tested, so the breed is a lot healthier. By doing the appraisals, you are getting very reputable judges like Skip Miller, Marco Suarez himself, Oscar Gomez, where they are coming in and they are giving you an evaluation of your dog on its phenotype and its characteristics. Like, your dog will lose points if your dog is extremely shy. If your dog is extremely aggressive, it loses points. Of course, your dog will lose points if the dog has a high rear. But by us having the ability to give you a score, your male is a 98.8, your male is a 63. You know what I mean? We can do it just like school. You don't have a business breeding a damn 63. A 63 is a damn D. You want to find males and females that are in the 90s because that's making the breed better. There, well, I'm gonna tell you, is there's several dogs that do a ton of inbreeding, and it's sad. Like, you can go to Pomeranians. Pomeranians do a lot of inbreeding. For a while, the what is it, the King Charles Spaniel, they had a problem where they inbred so bad that their dogs started having a huge seizure problem, and then it brought to light that we can't do this. But most people have most of the educated dog communities have found out that you just can't inbreed like this. You're gonna kill the whole breed off because the dogs become ancestral and really they get broke down very, very badly. Even in the wild, the packs that stay together for too long without any new blood, they start to get sickly. They start to get weaker. That's why it's always good when new males come in and take over a pack, because they impregnate all of the females and they add a different strand of blood, which allows the wolves or the lions or whoever it is, whatever pack it is, to be stronger and to be better. When those lines get so close, you're going to see everything dissipate. And you think about it. Uh, Oh, I'll talk about the pit monster. I'll be quick about that. But when you think about it, like, it's the same with people. We can't be just humping on our cousins and then they hump on their cousins. Our bloodlines and our immune systems and our genetic makeup is going to go haywire, and that's what you see with these dogs. The pit monster, I'm out on it a little bit, and I want to see it go longer, and we'll see. They're upfront about them using bulldogs in the pit monster, right? Excuse me. So if they're using bulldogs, they're creating another breed, which they said they are. The only thing I'm sort of alarmed by is the eyes. And this is not a joke. I know it's funny to think about the Cyclops bullies, but this is what's going on. Therapy, emotional support. But this is the thing. I love Staffy bloodlines. I just don't think anybody would use them properly anymore. But when you see one issue, right, and we saw this with exotics. If y'all remember back when exotics were first going on, first coming along, it would first be the feet were starting to get really bad. The next thing you know, you start seeing these crazy bold legs. And then before you know it, the exotics just got really, really, really weird. And when you see a phenotype issue that's tipping you off that something is wrong with the dog, you should be alert to it, because that's just like the tip of the icebergs getting out of the water. Now, we've seen it with the extreme dogs, and I'm not picking on Bashar, but y'all have seen that a lot of the dogs that Bashar had, the eyes got very, very, very close together. The backs got a lot longer. If he continued to breed those dogs line breed wise, they're going to fall all the way apart. Those are, it's just like, and I'm not making fun of anybody, but it's just like when they found people who were being inbred, they would have issues. Their eyes would be messed up. They would have funny ears. They would sometimes be missing fingers, and, or have deformed fingers. And with those monsters, I noticed that their eyes are very, very close together. They look very, very strange. So it's a thing to watch over the next 5, 6 years to see if that look corrects itself, if they do breedings that they can pull away from it, or if it compounds and get worse and we start to see other issues with those dogs. That's going to be very, very scary to watch because it's like the destruction of a breed. What's going on, Jesus? Yeah, and Mega, those eyes are a big tipping point. I told people that years ago when you started to look at some of the extremes. Those eyes are just the tip of the iceberg, but it's going to let you know something, and hopefully they're doing something. What's going on, Brother Carl? What's going on, Miss Reeves? But you have to pay attention, and even in your own yard, if you start getting a lot of kink tails, if you start getting your dogs are undershot, if you start getting heart murmurs, this is telling you that something's going wrong in your process. You know what I mean? And yeah, therapy. What we were saying is that sometimes people are inbreeding by accident because when line breeding gets to be too strong, it's inbreeding. And what's happening is when we started the American Bully, it used to be okay, line breed at the most 2 generations. Then you had to go totally away from the blood because you knew it was too tight. Now I see people line breed, line breed, line breed, and they never go away from anything. And even when they call it an outcross, they're still adding the same blood in again. And it may be because of a lack of blood out there, you know, a lack of options, or sometimes people are just scared to lose their looks, so they don't want to do anything else. They just want to add more and more of the same type of dog over and over again. And it's no, I don't inbreed at all. No, I don't inbreed at all. I don't see the need for it. That's why, like I was telling people, you missed the earlier part. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it, Mega. I line breed, but by the second time of line breeding, I'm gonna go somewhere totally different. That's why I have a lot of old straws and different things. And we were talking about using the older bloods. I like to step totally away from where I'm at, and then I go phenotype hunting. So you know what I mean. If I want a certain look, and I'm like, okay, those dogs aren't closely related, but they look like my dogs, I would rather try that. And when you're doing that, you got to do a ton of studying to see what the issues are with those dogs, and if you're, you know, and if it's not bringing anything that your dogs may be known for. My dogs personally, I always get scared if I'm dealing with anything with a skin issue, because I've had some skin issues in the past. So I typically will stay away from any dogs that's had any signs of a skin issue. And the mine haven't been horrible, but yeah, I stay away from skin issues. I stay away from, considering that my dogs are based off of, you know, way back there, the Great Little Row. I watch out for high rears in the bloodline because it easily comes back. It always comes back. I've been blessed that I have a beautiful bites with my dogs. You know, 99% of the time they just have great teeth. But it's you know, it's a nerve-wracking thing to be a breeder, and I hope people are willing to be, you know, to have their nerves worked, because it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of studying, and you have to study every aspect. You have to be able to, you know, if you're buying a stud from someone, they should be able to answer basic questions about what should I expect from this and this and this. Like for those of you who called me interested in the Armani stud, the basically thing is you're on a two-step program with Armani. He will give you a bully. Sometimes he will give you more terrier. But the one thing he will give you is drive. His kids will not be easy to, you know what I'm saying? They will not be lazy. Let's put it that way. They will have some drive and they won't be afraid of shit. You know, now, once you have an Armani kid, what do? You take it back to maybe some Paco, maybe some My Blood, whatever the case may be, because you want to double down on what we've been doing to keep the phenotype locked in with some good blood, but you're breaking everything apart. You've greatly reduced any type of issues you're going to have with the hearts, the, you know, conformational issues, eyes coming close together, and it's a scary thing. You know what I mean? Well, we have some Castro straws, but we're keeping them all. Oh, it's coming back. It's coming back. I probably will use Castro next year. That's what I'm thinking, that I'll do a Castro litter next year. Which when you get Castro, you're getting of course Denzel, but you're also getting Manu and you're getting some Gaff blood. And I actually have a very old school Gaff male that nobody too much knows his name or anything. But I'm gonna add some Gaff back into my stuff over the next couple years because we're from the old school. We know that we can take the old blood and really make some bullies. I'm not afraid to somebody brought up, Staffshires. I'm not afraid to go back to the original dogs because we've done it before. We brought in some dogs that we've made some dogs that have size and different things like that. Now you brought up Castro. Castro is easy because half of his blood is Denzel, which is a bullier blood, and then he's got Manu in there also, which is actually Thing's father. Thing is what's his name's father? I'm getting old, y'all forgive me. King Kamali's father. Thing was 100-pound male, you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely, yeah, inbreeding will cause you a lot of problems. Inbreeding could be the end of your program, honestly. I've seen people who inbred so badly that it literally was the end of their program because none of their dogs, were worthy of being bred. They had a lot of problems. Inbreeding can get so bad that the dogs can become epileptic, have seizures, have other issues. It's just I wouldn't recommend inbreeding at all. Sometimes it happens accidentally. If you get in that situation, just monitor the puppies and see where they go. But inbreeding is not a thing, and like I say, line breeding needs to be done very, very responsibly. We have to get, what I'm saying, what's going on, show enough. We have to get to a point where we're not afraid to put puppies down or to fix puppies and not allow them back into the gene pool. You know, the breedings that I do, I have the people be like, "How are you popping up with these dogs that we never seen?" It's because I've sold to a lot of pet homes, and it didn't mean that anything was wrong with the dogs. But when I do my litters, at times what I'll do is I'll pick one or two dogs that I feel like are the best dogs, and the other ones get them great homes. They'll be beautiful. They'll represent the breed. They're just not added to the gene pool. That's the way a lot of breeds do. Y'all excuse me, somebody getting chased by the police. I promise this is not a bad neighborhood. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, King City Exotics, the UK staff just isn't an easy dog to get a hold to. That community is not. They're not at all about. They're not at all about letting their dogs go. The dogs that we could generally get a hold of were UKC dogs. Now you had some AKC dogs, but I don't know if many of you remember it. It was a point. Gee whiz. It was a point to where you know what I mean. Now, I just don't like. Look, the what's going on, Max? The thing of it is, and I'll go back to the UK dogs and the early dogs, but the thing about inbreeding is from a clinical standpoint. If you look up inbreeding or if you look up incest, you'll see that anytime you're compounding genes that way, inbreeding, you're playing a very risky game. You can come out with a lot of bad things happening, and we have to be we have to be careful of that. Very few breeders in any breed would ever recommend inbreeding dogs. It's just a bad thing. I haven't seen anybody have an inbreeding program that was successful. The dogs end up sick or they end up deformed. But like I was saying with the early dogs, people don't remember this, but back in the day, the Staffy and the Pit Bull, you could do a registrum between AKC and UKC. This was our original stock. We pretty much had everything that was what we could get our hands on, which would be AKC Staffies or UKC Pit Bulls. And that was our early stock. You couldn't. It was hard to get anything from the UK. And I mean, even once we got going, I promise you, man, it was hard. What's going on, Max? It was hard. Yeah, Monster G was I love that dog. But it was just hard to get a hold of certain bloods like the Gaff dogs. It was hard to get a hold of the Gaff dogs. She even did an interview and she told why she made it hard because she felt like that our dogs move like robots, and that's a sign that the dogs are poorly built. When the dogs are like shaking and wobbling when they run, how some of these dogs run, they just weren't put together. The dogs were breaking down, and she didn't want her stuff mixed in to what we were doing, and I don't blame her. You know, a lot of the really good bloods, they just didn't want to deal with us, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And I mean, unfortunately, and now that I'm a little further ahead in the game, I'll say, fortunately, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, because the truth of the matter is that I believe if our community would have had full access to some of those great bloods, guess what would have happened? We'd have destroyed those dogs too, you know? So now I feel like later on in this process, it's an opportunity for us to bring back some of those old dogs with the people who have straws, with the people who have different things that can make, you know, that can make our breed a little bit better. Y'all hold on one second. I'm gonna flick the light and I'll try to go for another 10 minutes. Oh, that'll help some, but now my head has to be in front of it. But yeah, you know, it's just, this is a science, and I encourage anybody who wants to be a breeder, who's breeding dogs, to take it as a science, to take all of the homework that's needed, to take all of the preparation that's needed. One of the things I hate the most is that, hey, my bitches in heat, what stud y'all got? That just shows that the person really had no preparation for their breeding. And you know, the breedings that I have going on, some of these breedings I've thought about for 2 3 4 years literally, and trying to get to these breedings with intentions on trying to do some damage. You have to do your research, you have to do your planning, and you have to you know what I mean, be honest with yourself. If the dogs are not good, don't force them on anybody. If your dogs come out and they have high rears or they have different issues, you know, we even have people who will fix, you know, cleft palates and different things like that, and try to put the dogs back in the gene pool. Y'all remember Lippy had the cleft lip, and the brother talking about he gonna breed the dog, and you know, this is why this breed is so screwed up. It's called selective breeding for a reason. You know what I mean? We, you know, picking the best of the best and using those best representatives to make the dogs better. And when you breed like that, sometimes you take losses. And I know it's hard for some people to swallow because y'all get to counting the money before the money is in your hand. You know, I got five puppies. I'm selling them at 5,000 a piece. Boom, I'm gonna have 25,000 to put down on my Escalade. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You've got to now if it's five good puppies, more power to you. But you have to have a standard to where you're saying that if the dogs are not up to your standard, if they're not what they're supposed to be, then go ahead and fix the dogs. You know what I mean? Go ahead and get rid of the dogs. Go ahead and try to do something better. Uh, and that's okay because you're not only doing this for the breed, I mean, for your yard, you're doing it for the whole entire breed. It's too many breeders who are willing to sell everything with full breeding rights. You know, this process is not being done. We need the elite dogs to be the only ones being bred. If it's not an elite dog, then it shouldn't be bred. I hate to tell y'all this. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not, you know, it's just the truth. If it's not an elite, top-notch dog, then we should not be breeding a dog. It's just that plain and simple. Too many people are lowering their standards and hoping that they get something that someone would like instead of getting something that's right for the breed. You know, and this is all part of the process. You know, every breeding that you have as a breeder, you should be planning it out for the next 2 or 3 generations. You know, at the least. You know, I have 5 generations that I'm planning out, you know, before I retire from breeding altogether and let my boys take over it. But you know, those five, you know, tiers of breedings will put my sons in a place where it's lightweight. Then they should just be able to do their thing. 2 different families in the yard, uh, just breed. You know, just breed, and you know where to go when you need to get some more of that blood. But I would love to see people really practice breeding more. You know, you see a lot of people make smart ass comments and they down people and they talk a lot of shit, but yeah, folic acid, you know, is a must. That should be in your prenatals. But you know, my thing too is sometimes those pellets are just, it's not nutrition, it's genetics, and that's the scary part. Yeah, if you know you messed up on the diet somewhere and other things needed to be in the diet for the dogs to maintain properly, that's one thing. But also remember that sometimes these issues are coming from flat out that something went wrong with the genetics. And it doesn't make you a failure because I hate to tell you guys, every single breeder who's ever bred a dog has had puppies that either needed to be put down. I've had a couple puppies that were born with clefts and had to take the needle and put them down. You know what I mean? I've had a couple dogs that one had a severe skin issue as a puppy. Had to go ahead and well, I ended up pet homing her. I didn't put her down, but they fought with her skin for years. I think they finally got it under control. But whatever was causing that, and two of them puppies were from the same litter. I don't know exactly what caused it, but I had to take that L. I didn't think of it as, oh, I can't get the 4,000 for the puppy. I just had to think of it as, I'm not putting this trashy puppy out here and messing up everybody's, messing up the breed, because I know if I would have gave that female, because she looks so good besides her skin, if I would have gave her to somebody, man, trust and believe, they would have bred that bitch. You know, yeah, yeah. Oh, folic acid is, I, 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 I say it's almost a must when you're breeding dogs to add that to the diet of the females. You know what I mean? I think it was, especially where we're at the point to with all these females, they should be getting extra vitamins and more so prenatal. Excuse me. I'm actually going to be developing. Well, I've got everything together. Just need to get everything done. But prenatals, you know what I mean, for the females, and even some additives for their foods as they get pregnant. To help the process with basically just like a woman who takes the prenatal. What's going on, Chris Hunter? Just like a woman who takes her prenatals. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that, Chris. We have to allow these females the ability to be at their best. And this is all stuff that I mean, in general, dog people know. And it's just like I said, it's a re-education. You know, we have to loosen the genes up, and that's the only reason why I brought some of these older studs back. And another reason why I'm allowing some of my stuff to be sold is because the dog game badly needs the old genetics, because we don't have anywhere to go. Like in today's American bully world, you know, it's a high chance that your dog is going to have either Dax, or it's going to have Denzel, or it's going to have Remy in it. You know what I mean? You're going to have one of those dogs from that generation in your dogs, and sometimes you're going to have it 3, 4, 5 times in there. And really, our blood has just gotten way, way too thick. Way too thick. Yeah, Chris, I got rid of the Hef one. Um, Still got Armani and Ozone, but I think adding that old blood back in the game changes so many things, and it frees up your breeding program, because now you're not locked into anything, worried about inbreeding or anything. You got a fresh set of blood over there, and I think that that's going to be big important as the breed goes forward, because like I say, a large part of the problems that we're seeing with these dogs has everything to do with shit's just too tight, y'all. I like to tell y'all something different, but it ain't nothing different to tell y'all. But look, man, it's about the end of my time. I gotta do some more work, but I'm gonna jump right back on here tomorrow. Tomorrow, when I jump in, it should be closer to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, unless something changes with my house or whatever the case may be. But I'm gonna try to do a 2-hour one tomorrow. Get my ice pack ready for my phone won't overheat. But hopefully y'all can jump on, have some good questions. We can have a good conversation. But tomorrow I wanna focus on the rear ends a lot, and tell y'all about how and have a discussion about how the rear end affects the overall health of the dog and how it transfers. And you'll be surprised. The rear end can actually greatly affect the cardiovascular system. It's all it's all together. But we'll have that conversation tomorrow, man. I appreciate y'all time. God bless y'all and y'all families. I'll check y'all out tomorrow. All right now. Peace.